Thank you for tuning in to the Victory is Greater Than the Struggle in Ex-Lesbian podcast with myself, your host, Jessica Newsom. So every year at church, I go to Elevation Church, we ask God for a word for the next year, something that we're either believing God for, that he's impressed upon our heart, or something that God has impressed upon our heart. And he's like, I want you to focus on this. And so as I was thinking about my word for this year, I took a moment to think about what I asked for last year. The word that I gave God last year that he impressed upon my heart was elevate. Just simply elevate. Well, it's not simply, right? That is power packed right there. I wanted God to elevate me on the inside, my character, my growth, all the things that hold me back. I want him to fix those things on the inside of me. Remove what needs to be removed, put in what needs to be put in so I can elevate to the next level. And I always tell people, be careful what you ask God for. Whether you're asking God for a house or marriage, you're asking God for children, for your finances to be fixed, for him to heal your insecurities, right? For help with an addiction, whatever it is, how God does it, how he completes that, how he begins that is never how we think he's going to do it, right? And so when I look back upon this year and that word that I was believing God for, that he put on the inside of my heart, elevate, I can see that he has been doing it. I can see that he is just fixing my character, helping me to grow inwardly so that I am fruitful as a Christian, right? So I can move to the next level. But how he did it was actually horrible, right? It's not fun to grow because growing, you're going to have growing pains, right? You're going to be put to the test. God isn't going to always just say, okay, well, you want this in your life? Boom, here's a magic wand. Now you have it. You are this person that you want to be. You have that thing that you want to have. That issue in your life is fixed. No, sometimes he's like, okay, in order for this to change, in order for me to do this, to complete this in your life, I'm going to have to change your very character. Because God always wants our character to line up with the character of Jesus Christ. Day by day, we are picking up our cross and we're walking with Jesus. We are walking towards greater. We are changing the way we think, how we act, our very being, our very character. That doesn't mean that, we become this totally different person than who we are. No, we still have our own personality, right? But God is always trying to make us better, because by making us better, we walk in the healing and the victory and the confidence that we're always asking God for. So with that word elevate that I was asking God for, this year was full of pain. This year was full of confusion. This year was extremely uncomfortable. This year was very hard and just strenuous. This year, if I could kind of just sum it up, like I needed one big antidepressant for this year, because the growth that I was asking God for came with a lot of problems, came with a lot of God showing me areas in my life that he's like, okay, we can't collect $200 and go, right? We can't just pass start. We can't do any of that. We have to stop right here and we're going to work on this area that's painful, the areas that you don't want God to work on, right? And so, especially when we think they're too hard. And so I just really struggled this year with allowing God to change the inside of me, the things that you do not see over YouTube, the things that you do not hear, over Spotify, the podcasts and everything. There are things that God is just uprooting in our lives. But uprooting things always causes pain. And so today when I was at church listening to Pastor Stephen, he was just really helping me to remember what it looks like to have favor with God, right? What it looks like to grow, to become the woman and man, right? That God has called us to be. And a lot of times, whatever God is birthing in our lives, there's always going to be breaking. That's what he said, and it hit me. Whatever God is birthing in our lives, whatever he's pushing out of us, whatever he is making new, there's always going to be birthing pains. It's going to be hard, it's going to hurt, and it's going to suck, right? But at the same time, the end result of that process is progress. The end result of that process is freedom, is knowledge and understanding. You know how you go to different people and you ask them for advice all the time because you just aren't sure, right? And they seem to always have the right answer. They seem to be full of knowledge and all of that stuff. How did they get that? They went through the birthing process. They didn't come out of the womb perfect and just sinless. No, they still struggle. They still have sins that they struggle with, but they have a new mindset. They are allowing God to renew their mind, to renew them, change their character so they look more like Jesus instead of the problem, instead of the way our flesh tries to get us to look, right? So many times we just rest in the past, in the pity party. We rest in the problem. We rest in the negative circumstances. We rest in the toxicity that's around us because we don't know or we don't really want to move out of it because it's scary, because we don't know how it's going to happen, because we aren't sure what's going to be on the other side of this thing. But that is how progress is made. That is the birthing process. Favor that God has for you. There's always going to be pain associated to that progress, to that birthing progress. And so we have to focus on what God says about us versus the problem that's in front of us. Come on. Something that really, really struck me about this, about the words that we pick, about the things that we're asking God for, the changes that we're wanting God to make in our lives. Are you ready for it? Are you ready to go through the process? So many times we just think that the moment we start struggling and going through pain, that God isn't there. And I know you know that he is, but how come when you're in it, you swear up and down God isn't there? And then you start this pity party. Why me? How come this is happening? Wait a second. I need for you to remember that God is in everything. He is there right with you. Instead of looking at the problem, focus on what God is doing in the midst of this. So as I'm going through this in my life, this tough season in my life, God must be doing something. He must be birthing something. So let me be optimistic about this situation. Let me be positive about the situation, because God will use everything that I'm going through. God will use everything that you go through for your good, for his good, right? So instead of being like, man, this sucks, change your perspective. Say, you know what? There's something that God is teaching me in the midst of this. And by golly, I will get it, right? God, show me what you're wanting me to learn in this season. And as you do that, as you grow, as you learn, you become better. So what are you believing God for next year? What are you wanting God to do in you? What has he been telling you that he wants to do on the inside of you that you've kind of just been ignoring? Or maybe you just aren't really listening to God. You're just like, why does this word keep coming to my mind? Why does this phrase keep coming to my mind? And you kind of blow it off. We need to take more time acknowledging the presence of God, acknowledging when God is speaking to us. We need to really just take the time and sit in that and say, okay, God, whatever you want to do, I'm yours. I'm scared, but I'm yours. I'm worried, but I'm yours. I'm concerned and I'm confused and I don't know how it's going to happen. But God, I am yours. Do what you want to do in me and through me. I hope that this edified you guys. If you want to give to this ministry, I would appreciate that. You can click on the link or the little circle in the box. I have the wonderful opportunity to speak to people all around the world. This week, I've been speaking to people from Canada, from New York, California, Washington, D.C., and Pittsburgh, and just really ministering to people who are struggling with same-sex attraction, who is wondering, how do I get out of this thing? What do I do with this problem in front of me? Let me tell you something. If you walk with God as long as I have, which is a very short time, 9 years, right? You will encounter these things, these pitfalls, these potholes. And then when people come to you and say, I'm struggling with this, you have the opportunity to go, oh yeah, I've been through that, baby. I have been through that. I know what that's like. I know what that feels like. Let me give you some advice on that. Let me encourage you. Let me lift up your spirit. Don't give up. I got you. I know how it feels to be in that storm, but let me tell you something. It will be over if you follow what God is asking you to do. If you do what he's asking you to do. It's like getting crib notes to the test. We're supposed to walk with other believers who are walking with God to help elevate us, to help give us that wisdom, knowledge, and encouragement. So if you want to give to the ministry, please do that. It helps for me to minister to people around the world. I minister freely to people. I do not charge them at all. I do not ask for any offerings or anything like that. I do it out of the goodness of my heart because that's what God put on the inside of me. He said, I want you to walk with people who are struggling with the things that you've been struggling with and do it freely. And so that's what I do all week, and I absolutely love it. Please check it out. Check out my website, check out my book, and that's about it. If you love this, if you like this, share it on YouTube, on podcasts, rate and review. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.